Welcome into Reprogramming Your Subconscious Wealth Blueprint. So this is all about going a little bit deeper into those beliefs around wealth, understanding their origin, continuing to implement those tips to rewire so that you can have a healthier mindset around money, a more abundant relationship with money. Your subconscious operates effectively like a blueprint for your life. It runs most of your decision making. So therefore, it determines how you think, feel, speak, act. And that includes around money. But like any blueprint, it can be redesigned. Some of these pathways can be changed. And therefore, you can reprogram your beliefs to empower you, to allow financial empowerment. If you imagine you stepped into a library and every book in that great big huge library is or represents a belief around money. During this module, you are rewriting some of those outdated books, and moving forwards, you're going to be rewriting majority of those outdated books. You know, like I've said before, our subconscious controls over 95% of our thoughts and our decisions, and that creates an impact throughout our whole life. Because what your subconscious was fed yesterday will impact your decision making tomorrow. What your subconscious was fed when you were 7 years old impacts your decision making now. If you were told repeatedly as a child when you asked for things that money doesn't grow on trees, your subconscious might then start to think, well, actually, that means money's scarce. And it will then have spent a period of time after that looking for things to back that up, even if you didn't realize it. And those things individually may not ever have meant anything. It could have found, it could have found 5 things to back up that belief. But individually, if you'd never heard money doesn't grow on trees repeatedly, those 5 things would have meant nothing. They'd have just passed by. Your subconscious would have been like, oh yeah, that's great, thanks, bye, don't need you. But because it was looking for logical reasoning, it was like it grabs onto anything it possibly can. So even if you now consciously desire abundance, even if you now consciously desire financial freedom, even if you have more than enough money, it doesn't mean that you're not always living with that scarcity fear, because your subconscious has been programmed to live with a scarcity, live with a fear. So this is the work that we're doing throughout this module, but then also moving forward is working on this remapping. Now, I know in some of the previous videos in this module, I have taught you different exercises. And the reason for that is because one thing is not going to work for everybody. This would be a very short course if I could go, do this one exercise, you are going to completely reprogram, remap your brain, everything is done. It would be a very short program. So what I want to do throughout this whole module and moving forward into future modules is give you lots of different activities, exercises, things that you can be doing so you can build up a bank of tools that work for you. The reason that is so important is because you can come out of the end of this 8 weeks and go, yes, this is amazing. I think I've actually mastered my money mindset. That's brilliant. And then in 3 months' time, because you've mastered your money mindset and you're doing so much more and you're allowing yourself to step into that more abundant space, your business makes more money. And then what happens? More money issues come up because it's another level, another devil. These things never go away. They transform into something else. So the more exercises I can give you, the more things you can try, the more things you can go, yes, that worked for me, no, that didn't. You can come back to this stuff. And money is one of the topics that is really deeply tied to our own personal sense of identity. And so sometimes by exploring the roles that we play it can really help us uncover and shift the patterns that no longer serve us. Now, you've been doing a lot of work as we've been going through on what those patterns are. So I'm going to give you some prompts as we go through. I'm going to give you a money map exercise. And so either pause the video as we go through or come back once you've listened to everything and then go through it, because there's a certain format that you need to follow for this money map to work. So the first thing to do is I want you to really dive into your money identity. So if you were to describe your relationship with money as a role, what would it be? It might be that you're a natural overspender. And I say natural because that's what you've been taught to do. It might be that actually you're a risk taker. It might be that you're a saver. It might be that you're more avoidant. It might be that you're more turbulent. And 1 minute you're in this huge panic and you're avoiding things, and the next minute you're throwing yourselves into rounds of debt. It might be that you're very cautious. But if you had to describe your relationship, what would it be? And then I want you to think about the behaviours or the thoughts that you have that support this. And this can be quite hard, and you might need to come back to this first part a few times, because that can be quite difficult to actually face up to what behaviours and thoughts support this. And then the final part in this step 1 is the emotions that are tied to this identity. If you had to step away and change your relationship with money, how would this affect your emotions? What emotions do you have that are tied to this? And then step 2, I want you to explore the origins. So this identity of your relationship with money, who you are with money, where did it come from? Where have you seen this role modeled for you? What experiences, events, evidence do you remember that really solidified that this is who you are in your life? And again, that can be quite difficult, because you can feel like you're putting blame, but you're really not. But if you can identify, you can start to unpick and move back. Step 3, becoming a new empowered money identity. So then I want you to craft, to build an intentional identity that you want to take on board. What role do you want to play in your money life? Do you want to be an investor? Do you want to be a generous giver? Do you want to be a wealth creator? What do you want to be when it comes to money in your financial life? And that might be more than one thing. And then dive into what behaviours and habits will help you align with that. So what behaviours and habits do you need to take on board to be able to align with being that person? And what new emotions could this evoke? And that might be good, it might be bad. It might be that actually once you are in this new role, these are what the new emotions will be. But in that transition, you know that these emotions will come up. That's great, because that's having an awareness. If you can have an awareness, if you can look out for it, then you can do something. It's building up and gaining new perspectives, and then being able to anchor into that new identity. And one way you can do that actually is by almost creating a new mantra that embodies that new identity. I'm building my new financial success. I embody confidence and wisdom in all money decisions. You can literally stop and repeat that mantra to yourself multiple times a day, because your brain needs to be reminded, you're going back into that space, you need to be in this space. The more you do it, the more your brain transfers into where it should be, the less you have to do the mantras, the less you have to do the work. It's creating that habit, it's creating that new home in your subconscious, where your subconscious goes, oh yeah, you've told me this so many times, and now I'm starting to see the evidence of it. This must be true. That last financial belief no longer serves me. I'm going to get rid of it. because that's what your subconscious brain does. It basically acts like a filing system, and it files things where it thinks it needs to be, and when it doesn't need anything else, it sort of drops off the edge. So as soon as you're teaching it, it doesn't need that, it goes off the edge. You know, acknowledging the beliefs, acknowledging if that belief comes up that, I'm not good at managing money, being able to acknowledge that, being able to know that it was something that you experienced, something you were maybe told, where that came from, and that it wasn't fact, because then you can start to reprogram your subconscious with what is fact, what is evidence. When you're retracing those steps as to where these things came from, being able to then reframe them. When you're thinking about that reframing, what does that reframing look like? Money is really stressful, but actually I can use money as a tool to create freedom in my life, which creates peace. I never seem to have enough, but I am capable of creating financial abundance. When I was talking about evidence, give yourself the evidence. See yourself living how you want to live. How does it look? Who are you with? What are the feelings that this evokes? The more vivid and emotionally connected you are to these things, the more your subconscious brain believes it, because it cannot distinguish between reality and fiction. The more you can read books of people who have achieved what you want to achieve, the more you can look for success stories online of people who have come from where you've come from and believed what you've believed and moved into where you want to be. Because you're giving your subconscious brain the evidence that it needs. All of this evidence, the affirmations, the visualizations, the journaling, the question answering, the conscious pivots, all of these things are like planting seeds. Repetition is the nurturing that allows them to grow. And then they become there. Then they become the fact that these are things that just are, like getting up and breathing. You wake up in the morning, you're breathing. You don't have to think about it. Why don't you have to think about it? Because your body does it automatically. These things will become automatic. But it's about reinforcing those about reinforcing the positive behaviors and the positive financial beliefs. It's about tapping into wealth. Like I said, your subconscious is a blueprint for your financial life. By bringing awareness to it, you can reframe it. By bringing consistent practice, you can redesign it. So this is another tool that you can use, another way that you can move past those things that have been holding you back. You can create your own wealth blueprint. You can choose to design a life of abundance, a life of confidence, a life of joy. But you have to put in the work to consciously pivot into that space first. I will catch you in the next video.